Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. My name is Madeline and this is Made with Books, and if you see this shot again you can tell that I'm pre-filming. So today I'm going to do the Booktubers Snooker's book tag. This tag was created by Alan Morton and I was tagged by Brian over at Bookish. I will link their channels down below, obviously, go check them out. And yeah, let's just get straight into it. So basically, Alan created this tag with reference to the game Snookers. And with Snookers, you have to get the balls that all have different colors into the holes in a certain order. So you just go along this order and you'll answer the questions. So the first ball that you have to get in is the red ball. And the prompt is to name a book that made you see red, so a book that made you angry. And by the way, as somebody from Eastern Germany, it's interesting to see the color associations that Alan shows, because some of these colors mean something different from where I come from. I mean, red can probably still also mean anger, but it's more likely to mean love. So I will probably just mention the meanings on the side, and those are not relevant for all of Germany. Like Daniel doesn't know some of these meanings, so. Okay, so a book that made me see red is one that I have gotten rid of, so I can't show it to you, and that is All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. And if you have spent any time on YA Booktube a couple of years ago, you will know that this book was very popular and very hyped. But it made me very angry with the way it talked about depression and suicide. It is basically about this girl who I think loses her sister and she spirals into a depression, and then she meets this guy from her high school who also has some issues and sort of helps her to overcome hers. And I'm gonna spoil this book relentlessly because I don't think it's worthwhile reading, but if you do want to read it, just skip a little bit ahead. And basically this guy is, in the end, abandoned by everybody, including her. He drowns himself. He goes to this lake that is super, super deep, and he just dives very, very deep so he can't come up in time. And this book just talked negatively about therapy, it talked negative about medication. And it was basically just this guy helping the female protagonist to get her life in order again, only to be abandoned in his turn. And I don't think it is tragic, it just sends off really negative messages about depression and about how you should handle depression. And in my opinion, it suggested that suicide was his only option. And while I do realize that when you have depression and you're in that mindset, suicide seems like the only option for you at some points. That doesn't mean it is the only option. It means that you at this moment cannot think clearly about it and you need help. And the way that this talked about getting help from outside was really negative. And I just feel like this book proposed some very dangerous, potentially dangerous ideas, and didn't really add anything worthwhile to the narrative surrounding depression and suicide. And if you suffer from depression or if you have suicidal thoughts, please seek out help. Another book that I could have named for this is The Boy in the Dress by David Walliams, which has a wonderful message about this boy loving to wear dresses. Now, he's not transgender, he just likes cross-dressing. And he gets kicked out of his school because of this. But slowly everybody comes to accept that, including his conservative father. And you would think that has a wonderful message, and then again, spoilers, in the end he meets the headmaster who got him kicked out of the school, and the headmaster also is wearing women's clothing secretly, and he gets to be accepted back into school by blackmailing the headmaster, saying that if he doesn't want this to get out into the public, then he better let him back into school. So it shames somebody in the same situation. So I think it completely discarded its own positive message, and for that reason I was very disappointed with it. So now that I've got this rant off my chest, let's go to something more positive, which is the yellow ball that is the next one in Snooker. And that is to name a book that is sunny, a book that makes you think of summer, or a book you'd like to read in the summer. Now, I don't really read seasonally, but a summer reread for me would probably be something light and fun. And for that I thought I would pick Aya by Marguerite Aboué. This is a graphic novel that is set on in the Ivory Coast in the 1970s, and it's about 19-year-old Aya. The copy that I read was from the library, so I'm sorry I can't show it to you, but it's really nice illustrations as well. I will link down below to a copy so you can maybe check it out a little bit more detailed. And unlike her friends, Aya isn't just interested in dating and finding a boyfriend, but she's interested in educating herself, in studying. And while it does tackle some tricky issues, it is also really light-hearted and funny and an entertaining read. It's actually a series. I think there's 3 volumes. And Abui herself said, I found this quote that says, "That's what I wanted to show in Aya, an Africa without the war and famine, an Africa that endures despite everything, because as we say back home, life goes on." So I really like that it's like a positive depiction of an African country, of the Ivory Coast, and yeah, I had a lot of fun when I read this. The next ball you get in with Snookers is the green ball. Green is the color of spring, so name a book that is set in spring or makes you think of spring. And for this I had to pick The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett, and if you see the cover you know why spring, because the garden just immediately spring comes to mind. So this is the story of orphaned Mary, who is, upon losing her parents, being returned to the UK from India where she lived. It's set during colonial times, which, you know, comes with some baggage, obviously. Her character, when she comes there, I mean, obviously she's lost her parents, but she's really difficult. But it's slowly changing. She starts to make friends and they discover this secret garden which changes their lives. And that is just so lovely. So I think this would be a perfect spring read. The next color you need to get in with Snookers is the brown ball. And brown is a somber color. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention the color associations we have from where I come from. So with yellow it would actually be considered the color of envy, and green would be considered the color of hope. But the brown ball, brown is a somber color. Name a book with a somber or serious theme. Now in Germany brown is associated with Nazis. I'm not going to pick a book about Nazis though for this. I'm going to pick another somber themes, and that is school shootings, and it's We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lionel Shriver. And this is an epistolary novel, and it's the mother writing letters to the father about their son Kevin, who has done some horrible things. When I read this, I didn't know how it was going to end, so the ending also took me completely by surprise. There's also a film adaptation that is absolutely fantastic, featuring Tilda Swinton, Ezra Miller, and some other great actors. If you don't want to read this but would still want to read about the subject of shootings in the US, I would recommend as a non-fiction read Another Day in the Death of America by Gary Younge, which deals with young people dying from gun violence in the US. The next color is the blue ball, and blue is the color of sadness. Name a sad or melancholy book. Blue, from where I come from, is associated as the color of faithfulness. But I'm gonna pick something that has a sad or melancholy theme. Again, I don't have the book with me. I'm guessing it's at my mom's right now. And that is On Chesil Beach by Ian McEwan. I have yet to watch the movie adaptation, I have to say, but I read this book a couple years back and I think it was very melancholy. It is the story of a marriage in the 1960s. It's this young couple, they get married and they get to their wedding night and they've never had sex before. And the wedding night basically goes wrong and has follow-up implications for how that relationship develops. And years later they question whether they made the right choices. And I thought it was just heartbreaking. And it's about this, probably this repressed sexuality at the time plays a role in that as well. Another book that would definitely fit the bill is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, but I've talked about this elsewhere, so I'm not gonna get into it. The next one is The Pink Ball, and pink is a happy color, so name a book that made you feel happy or uplifted. Again, tried to pick a book I haven't talked about prior, and I picked a book by Umberto Eco, of all things, and the English title for this is How to Travel with a Salmon and Other Essays. This is basically an eclectic mix of essays and other texts by Umberto Eco, and I read it probably more than 10 years ago at this point. And it really made me chuckle at the time when I read this. It was really, these were surprisingly funny, which, I mean, prior to that I only had read The Name of the Rose, which isn't really a funny book by any means. So it was nice to see this side of Echo's writing. I will say though, I don't remember anything in particular with like short stories or essays. I really struggle with that, so I will probably reread these at some point. So take this with a grain of salt, because it's been a while since I've read them. The final ball you need to get in with Snookers is the black ball. Black is associated with depressing things, so name a book with a depressing theme. And again, I don't have my copy of the book with me because I lent it to my sister in England. So this one is Every Man Dies Alone, or Alone in Berlin by Hans Fallada, a German author. And this is based on a true story of an older couple that have lost their son in World War II. And they were these sort of humble, quiet people, but now they decided to do something against the Nazi regime after losing their son, and they start leaving postcards and encouraging defiance against the Nazis in Berlin, where they live, in the area surrounding where they live. And you can probably imagine how this turned out for them. I'm not going to go into details, but this is a heartbreaking story. This is a depressing story. I mean, it's about Nazi Germany. It's going to be depressing. But it's wonderfully written and a great story. And I would highly encourage you to check it out. So yes, I've gotten all the different colored balls into the holes. I've played Snookers. Thank you again so much, Brian, for tagging me. Thank you, Alan, for creating this tag. I am going to tag a couple of people who I hope will do this tag. I'm going to tag Alan from Big Heart Books and Classic. I'm going to tag Sean from Sean the Book Maniac, Angie from Literary Labours, Lacey from Turn the Page, and Shannon from That's So Poe. So all of you consider yourself tagged. I will link down below to all of the channels I've mentioned. If you don't know any of these channels, please go check them out. They're all great people and have interesting things to say about books. So they're definitely worth your time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye guys!